right, welcome to Firewall and Router Integration. So what the assessor is looking for, first, coordinated security controls. You as the assessor or the GRC analyst working for the organization, first, again, you will check whether the router works in connection with firewalls. These are some of the things that we discussed when we went through the firewall integration, right? Other security mechanism to ensure that data flow into and out of the CDE card data environment is strictly controlled. For example, traffic inspection. The router should enforce policy that inspect incoming and outgoing traffic, ensuring that only legitimate traffic enter the CDE. Do you see? So these are some of the things that we have been talking about. For example, assessor will verify that the router is properly configured to work with the firewall to inspect and block unauthorized connections. For example, blocking all incoming traffic except for secure authorized connection from an authorized payment processor. And you see, block all incoming traffic, but allow from this particular payment processor because he's been authorized and allowed within your organization. And once they have all the different rules that have enabled, that become your ACL, your access control list, what is being allowed and what is not being allowed. But talking about logging and monitoring, that's something that we've covered already. The router should also be configured to generate logs for all inbound and outbound traffic, including any attempt on authorized connection. These logs should be forwarded to the centralized log mechanism or management system, SIM, like Splunk. And we did cover that already. So do you realize that all these other services that we'll be mentioning, all the other like devices, same procedures. It doesn't matter if it's a router firewall. You also have to talk about those logs. We also talk about the retention period. How do you all intend to retain those particular log? And for example, you make sure that you guys are going with the PCI DSS required standards or requirements, as far as retention of logs are concerned. And for example, the assessor will verify that the router is logging traffic properly and that logs are being reviewed in real time or near real time for any sign of security breaches, such as unauthorized access attempts. So do you see? So once you enable those logs, you have those triggers, then your organization can definitely fall back. And this exactly give us a good example. If you can see the day, the time star, you even see the router, you give the router ID, what particular router is it? You see all the different protocol and port, what is being allowed, what is not allowed. If you look at this one, all of this, you have the router failed at port. So you have stuff like that, and it's being it's being recorded in the log. Then of course they can fall back to be able to investigate that properly. Okay. And hardening is also something that we've mentioned already. You also harden by enable MFA, have stringent security practices to make sure that it's better protected, it's secure. For example, the assessor will review the router configuration to ensure that access to management interface is restricted to authorized IP addresses. For example, you have internal network or VPN and check that firmware is up to date with the latest security patches. And these are just some of the things that we have discussed already. And you see, though I put a manual, list here, but that's something that once you go into that system, you can eventually check. But this is just to give you all a pictorial overview as to visualization as to what you need working for that organization. All right. And to talk about outbound traffic controls, we already spoke about outbound too. No, spend some time. We already have a video on that. But now the concept of routers, right? So outbound traffic, again, is here to do with outbound traffic. Make sure whatever thing that is also going there, going out of your network has also been defined and decide as to what you guys are allowed for employees to go, like where and the site that they can visit while they are within your network. And we also spoke about redundancy and failover, just as you would do in the terms of firewalls. Router will also make sure that you do that failovers, just to enable all for business continuity as pertaining to high availability solution. And that's why it says that the assessor will check that the router configuration includes failover capabilities such as secondary router or a load balancer. We already covered load balancer, right? As of now, load balances the load. and test the failover process to configure that or confirm that traffic continues to flow securely in case of an outage. And to summarize all what we've been discussing so far, we'll talk about network segmentation, right? Ensure proper isolation of the CDE from other network. Access control lists, verify ACL and routing rules, enforce the principle of least privilege. Firewall integration, ensure router and firewalls work together to enforce security policies. Logging, confirm that routers, logs, capture, reviewed, and retain. Router hardening, ensure secure configuration, management access, and regular updates. Outbound traffic control, verify that outbound traffic is restricted and monitored. Redundancy, ensure routers are set up with failovers to ensure high availability. The assessor role is to ensure that the router is configured to protect the cardholder data environment and support PCI DSS compliance, enforcing access control, network segmentation, and secure data flow. So that brings us to the end of router firewall. So we'll also briefly touch on switches. Again, as I said, these were some of the things that I had already prepared this slide before I even went to do the networking video. Again, we'll just rapidly go through this concept because we already have like D2 video on switches, what it is, what it entails, and then we'll find our way up. And I cannot wait for us to get to the actual stuff where we start talking about the different requirements and the controls themselves. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.